Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
You all ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Dun, 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 dun.
This is a sham.
No.
Y'all, just stop.
Get real.
Welcome to DBL. I'm Lindsay in for Tori today. Happy Friday, guys.
Yeah,
What's going on?
Friday blue vibes going on today.
I wore blue yesterday, too. I'm in a blue mood.
Yeah.
A good blue mood.
Yeah.
Okay. We're starting out today with WNBA star Brittany Griner, who's being held in Russia on drug charges. Now, as you guys may have heard, Brittany pleaded guilty to those charges yesterday, saying she unintentionally brought vape cartridges with cannabis oil into the country because she packed in a hurry and never intended to break the law. Brittany entered the courtroom carrying a picture of her wife. She also received a letter before her hearing from President Biden. Brittany's legal team explained that she pleaded guilty in the hopes that she'll get a lighter sentence. Now she faces a potential 10 years in prison, guys. Diplomatic efforts to free her are underway, with some experts saying her best hope is possibly a prisoner swap, which would just mean that somebody that we have detained in the U.S. that's somebody from Russia, we would swap out. But the crimes might not match, and it might set a precedent for just holding hostages in order to get what Russia wants, or other countries looking at this and saying, oh, if we hold a United States prisoner, maybe we can get somebody out from that has wronged the U.S. So it is a slippery slope, but there is definitely an urge to bring Brittany Griner home. What do you think, Al?
I mean, an urge, and let's not forget who got Biden elected and put him over the top. It was black women. And that's 100, Stacey Abrams in Atlanta, flipped the reddest state ever. He needs to come through for black women like yesterday. If he wants to look at this just from a political standpoint. Now when we start talking about human beings and how I've traveled overseas quite a bit, nothing compared to Jeff. I didn't realize really until I was kind of at the tail end of my international travels, before I realized and started watching that show Locked Up Abroad, how seriously they take things that we kind of or just flipping about, like marijuana, like you in Thailand or Taiwan, I won't know you. You'll be gone forever. But here it's just like, oh, it's a $50 fine. Don't do it outside. So you need to really know where you are, and I'm not begrudging Brittany at all.
Absolutely
I'm just saying anybody that can hear my voice that's traveling at any time needs to be very aware of the laws in that country.
Especially Singapore.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go around the country, right?
The U.S. kept saying that she's wrongfully detained, so it was actually surprising to me that she went in and pleaded guilty. But there's some sentiment about why she might have done that. What are your thoughts on the whole thing and the exchange between her and Biden? Because a lot of people were urging Biden to speak directly to her quickly.
I think Biden needs to step up, but I think Russia's holding us kind of over the coals with that prisoner swap thing. We want Brittany back, but the guy we're trading for is sentenced to 25 years in prison for arms dealing. Right? So
not
Russia's
exactly the same crime.
Russia's like,
cartridges.
You want her back? Russia's taking advantage of the situation, but Biden needs to do something to get her back. Definitely. I do want to read something on Brittany Griner, and I don't want to pick on Brittany Griner here. It's more to what the discussion means. Stephanie, we're having, you weren't here the day after 4th of July. Some celebrities spoke out against America, and I was trying to defend America. But just in Brittany's case, in July of 2020, Brittany wrote, I honestly feel we should not play the national anthem during our season. I think we should take that much of a stand. That was her in July of 2020. Come July 2022, she wrote, to the president, on the 4th of July, our family normally honors the service of those who fought for our freedom, including my father, who is a Vietnam War veteran. It hurts thinking about how I usually celebrate this day because freedom means something completely different to me this year. Two different takes, couple months in a Russian prison shows you how much freedom America has. A lot of people take that for granted. A lot of people want to post during 4th of July against America. What's wrong with it? Plenty wrong with America, plenty, but we are not other countries. We have our positives in this country, even though it's not perfect. We need to focus on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good things that go on, and I say all the time when I walk around this country, and I've been to a lot of places in the country, how different we are.
Yeah.
The way just people look and act in the different cultures that you can experience. You're from New York. I'm not telling you anything. There's a beauty to this country, and also there's an ugliness as well. And where we fall short as just people is trying to separate the beauty from the terrible. It's all here and it's all together all the time. So just those two takes, the July from 2 years ago and the July from this year, just shows you, yes, she now has something to compare it to, but also I don't discredit her comments from last year. Both can be true because it's all true, because it's all here at all times.
And I think you have to acknowledge where we were 2 years ago, just coming off the heels probably of George Floyd being killed. And I think America had a moment to say, okay, even though we have successful women person like Brittany Griner, who brings financial gain and just a positive vibe to both the United States and Russia. This is somebody who understands the experience of a black person in this country, who looks forward to pursuing the American dream, but also understands that she's been hindered based on slavery and her ancestors and the opportunity to own land in certain ways. And so that's why it's important to understand both, and maybe not just shun the country, because you have an option to move out, get a green card, move somewhere else, work somewhere else. But we live here, and my dad always says it's like, we are some of the most American people here. We built this place, right? So then we should stand up and look at the flag and say, I'm excited to be here. And so I do agree with that, but also we want Biden to kind of stand up and save her life, just like we saved other people's lives that have been in similar situations.
I absolutely think both could be true. You guys are 100% right, yes.
Now, there's another story from overseas that's making big headlines. Shinzo Abe, Japan's former prime minister, was assassinated while he was giving a campaign speech. A 41-year-old man shot him from behind. People rushed to help him in the aftermath, and doctors said he was hit in the neck and one bullet reached his heart. The suspect was caught by police. He allegedly carried out the attack with a homemade gun. Japan has some of the strictest gun laws in the world and has completely outlawed handguns. So we're looking at, like, how can this happen? And also, this is somebody who was a beloved leader of Japan. And so it's just unfortunate when you think about, we always compare the United States to other incidents that happen with gun control and how they're managing it. But this man, I believe, built the gun himself.
Yes.
And so, you know, it's just an unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah, they outlawed guns, obviously, in Japan. They don't have that crime rate. We were just talking about Japan, going there and things like that before. How organized the country is, how beautiful it is, how many people they have, and how
you
they
have
abide.
to see it for yourself.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
How efficient it is.
Yes, it's really amazing. But they haven't had an assassination attempt in Japan since 1960. And I know when you say 1960, that's 60 years ago, 62 years ago that was. So to go this long, to go this long without that, and I don't know this much about that man or his policies and things like that, but I heard he was beloved, and this is a tragedy that Japan's dealing with right now.
I read into it, and you know, he was out stumping for another candidate.
I heard that,
and so it's like at 67, you know, a beloved former prime minister, you could be whisked away, or you could be living in, you know, in Versailles. He could be anywhere in the world. He still cared so much about his country that he was out stumping to keep his message and what he had started going. And I know a lot of people might look at this and say, see, there's no point in having gun laws. Even places it's illegal, you still get shot. But Lindsay, would you take the deal that we had a murder every 60 years? Can you imagine how, it sounds weird, how wonderful that would be? That it's like once a century, there was a murder because of handguns. That's what a law like that can do. And it's a weird way to have it brought up, but the beauty of laws like that is that it's our lead story that one person got shot. That's the beauty of outlawing handguns right there.
But also, to me, it's odd that he wasn't protected more. When we think about our former presidents in this country, maybe not their entire family, but them are kind of led with Secret Service and covered with Secret Service for a lot of their life after their presidency. So it's kind of like the fact that he was accessible in that way. I don't know exactly how the bullet hit him or what, but it does seem like, you know, there should be more protections for somebody who is especially a beloved leader of a country. But even if they're not beloved,
how much are you protecting against that after 62 years, right? You're like, that's never going to happen, almost after that long. Yeah. And then someone puts together a gun, and there's just bad people out there.
You know, in between those 60 years, that means that there were people that worked probably as protective Secret Service for presidents that never fired a shot, that never known anybody that had been in any kind of gun exchange. I mean, just in our lifetimes, people tried to shoot Reagan. Obviously, not in our lifetime, but Kennedy. Yeah, I mean, our leaders, obviously Martin Luther King, if you want to go there, Malcolm X.
That dude just got out of jail, right? Who tried to assassinate Reagan?
Didn't he? Yeah, I think so.
I'm pretty sure he did.
We'll figure that out.
He came out with an album.
Yes, we're
a lot of
our leaders being attacked. So, I mean, I hope one day we can be like Japan, where the Secret Service almost doesn't need to exist.
Yeah, and I think another conversation, just quickly, because I know we're wrapping this up, is just like America has been a country where people are responsible gun owners. And so I think that's why a lot of people get uncomfortable with the idea that we want to be more like Japan and outlaw everything, because some people genuinely, and this is from me being in partnership with a man that's from Texas, one of the most gun lenient states. His entire family has guns. His grandmother passed away and gave Colin his entire collection from his grandfather. So it means something different to them than it does for me being from New York.
Right.
And so I think just acknowledging those people and telling them we see you, because some of you are former veterans like Colin's father, is important to understand our gun laws as opposed to to other countries and just figure out how we can blend the two to find some type of synchrony or synchronicity.
Right. We don't have to be exactly like them, but let's find our own safe place. Right.
Exactly.
Right. Coming up on DBL, a mother charges her 18-year-old rent. Why some people are questioning her parenting style, and a Florida newspaper apologizes after printing a scathing obituary. But were they wrong? We're chatting about it next.
Closed captioning provided by
DBL is all new every day.
Okay, so I don't know, I went off on a Trivial Pursuit tangent, but John Hinckley tried to shoot Reagan, or he did shoot Reagan, didn't kill him, didn't assassinate him, but then got out of jail. I'm sure everyone knows the story, and he came out with what happened, so he recently got out of jail. I was gonna drop Hinckley, but I was like, I'm gonna drop Hinckley, and he's gonna be I'm like, and he's gonna be the guy who shot like Abraham Lincoln. I'm gonna look like an idiot.
In those situations, it's better to say I'm going to get back to you on it, or just like talk, because to be wrong is like then that becomes the headline. It's like you know what I meant.
Yeah,
right. You know
so
what
I had Hinckley Booth shot.
Oh, John Wilkes Booth
shot Lincoln. Anyways, I didn't want. I just didn't want to look stupid.
By the way, I listened. I'm such a nerd. I listened to this whole story about John Wilkes Booth and like what happened with the assassination. Because like when I'm in the car with my son, he takes my phone, and so his stuff comes through my speakers, his YouTube videos. So I have to listen to like AM radio. Yeah, because I don't want to.
Even my grandma stalks you all on Instagram, doesn't listen to AM radio.
I listened to this whole thing on NPR about
except NPR.
John Wilkes Booth. When he got shot, the guy, he killed him in the balcony. He jumped off the balcony to escape onto the stage, broke his leg, and like was on the run and like being they chased him down like over like not I don't know if
of course they caught you because
they found him like the way they used to find people in like the 1800s. Like they tracked him down
like with the torches and
they went and got him, bro.
Like he was being. Jr. shot Reagan because he wanted Jodie Foster's attention.
That's right. That's right. Now I remember that.
Get this going.
Yeah, Jodie Foster.
What was I don't know.
It was a New York police officer. So he moved to Florida.
She was a young actor. I don't know the exact movie, but some little history there.
Yeah.
Welcome back. So a Florida man did not hold back when writing an obituary for his father, who was a retired New York police officer. In the obituary, the son describes him as an abusive alcoholic who fathered several children, some of whom he acknowledged and others he did not. He said he left behind a path of destruction that damaged his adult children, leaving them broken. He also said his father's hobby included abusing his first wife and children, being a, quote, barfly and a, quote, ladies' man.
Those last two are movie titles.
Here's what the son said about what he wrote, or why he wrote about it.
Writing his obituary was a way for me to really cleanse myself and let that part of my life go.
So the Florida paper who published this obituary is now apologizing, saying, quote, "We regrettably published an obituary that did not adhere to our guidelines," like respect the dead. DBL Nation, we want to know what you think. Should a newspaper publish negative obituaries like this? Yes or no? Go to dblvote.com on our app and weigh in. Okay.
How about talking to a therapist?
It seems like,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you gotta.
It makes me so uncomfortable.
You're gonna pay by the word to tell the people in an obituary what a jerk your father was. Talk to a therapist, buddy.
Yeah, and I agree. Definitely. For his happiness, he should. But when you look at a case like this, so are we making a rule that all obituaries have to be flowery, even if you weren't that kind of person?
Well, why do you have to be the one to write it? Maybe someone who had flowery thoughts could write it.
Somebody greenlit him to write it, so maybe he was speaking for the family. I mean, if you knew that one person had beef, if one person in your family had beef with somebody that died, would you let them write the obituary, Lindsay?
I would hope that at some point in between that awkward relationship maybe, I would encourage, let's say I was his mother, a sit down with your father, even if he and I had bad blood, so that you guys can resolve whatever tension you have, because it's not healthy to go through life. You have to release people.
Right.
You know, Oprah always talks about her strained relationship with her mother because of the way that she was left out in her life.
Wow.
And she rectified that before her mom passed away, and still says to this day that's the best thing that she could have decided to do. I think that's important, to try to settle things before people pass away.
Yes, but I bring the question back to you guys. Does every obituary have to be nice?
I mean, what happened to that old saying, respect the dead, right? They're gone. He survived by 3 kids and a grandchild. That's all you have to write. If you don't want to write something good, you don't have to write something bad either.
Right.
I feel like we've lost all sense of respect in this country, even if that was a bad man. But what if one person had a good relationship with him, right? What if a cousin was like, that was my favorite uncle in the whole world, but that's how the world's going to remember him now because he wasn't great to his son? People do bad things. At what point do we let it go? Not even when you're dead anymore? Now it carries you into the afterlife?
Also, just for some background, because I used to work for a newspaper, in order to submit the obituary, that's a choice of the family. It's not like they go around the community and see who died.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you don't just like get an obituary in a paper. The family has to organize it, or someone from the family. So maybe you should have made that speech at the actual funeral if you felt that strongly about it, in front of a close-knit family and friends who need to know how you feel.
I like
Lindsay.
Lindsay.
But the world?
Lindsay's like, no, say it to their face.
I mean, you're going to say it to the rest of the world?
Right.
It's like somebody in Florida who had a nice relationship with them might have been like, what?
So
like finding out they died and then finding out he's trash to his family members?
So what does it say about this guy who went out of his way to write the obituary, paid by the word and made it extra long, and then
I mean,
just ripped his father apart.
Jeff, you were kind of joking, but you were right on the head when he said he needs to go to therapy because clearly there is an anger in him that is boiling over, and it's probably valid.
Right.
But for his own well-being, to enjoy this journey on this planet, he needs to talk to somebody like now.
Yeah.
Okay, so the viewers say, should the newspaper run the negative obituary? 78% say yes, and 22% say no.
That's because everybody's a hater this day.
You guys always surprising me with this. Coming up on DBL, a mother draws up a lease for her 18-year-old daughter living at home. Do you think she's gone too far?
Could turning on this machine create a black hole? This is the Large Hadron Collider, one of the largest particle accelerators in the world, operated by the European Organization for Nuclear Research, known as CERN. On July 5th, it was powered up after a 3-year upgrade and maintenance hiatus. The news prompted conspiracy theories to spread online, with people speculating what might happen after the machine was turned on. Verify viewer Wilson emailed to ask if CERN's Large Hadron Collider can open up a cosmic black hole. So let's verify. Our sources are CERN, the U.S. Department of Energy, NASA, and Dejan Stojkovic, a physics professor with the University of Buffalo. According to NASA, cosmic black holes form in space when stars much bigger than the sun collapse on themselves. The result is, quote, gravitational fields so strong that nothing, not even light, can escape, and a gravitational pull so powerful that it can pull in nearby material and, quote, eat it. The CERN LHC can't create a cosmic black hole. But here's what it can do. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, a particle accelerator speeds up the smallest known particles, such as electrons or protons, to very high energies, which, according to CERN, allows researchers to study what happens and potentially gain insights into fundamental laws of nature. Physics professor Dejan Stojkovic told Verify in an email that current technologies aren't capable of creating a cosmic black hole, adding, quote, we need an accelerator as big as the whole universe to do that, so we should either improve our technology drastically or we should build a bigger accelerator, unquote. So we can verify, no, CERN's Large Hadron Collider particle accelerator can't create a cosmic black hole. But let's play devil's advocate for a second. If a cosmic black hole were created when CERN turned on that machine, Stojkovic says surrounding material would fall into that black hole until the whole Earth was swallowed. But that's clearly not what happened. Instead, this is. Scientists identified 3 never-before-seen particles. With your Verify, I'm Ariane Till.
Welcome back to DBL. So the internet is divided over a mom who's charging her 18-year-old daughter $100 a month for rent. She posted this TikTok video of her teenage daughter signing a lease with the caption, quote, when your 18-year-old decides to stay at home. Some think this mom has gone too far, but she argues that as a single mom at the age of 16, her parents did not set her up for success. And after going viral, this is what her daughter had to say.
I came to realize that once I move out, that's what I have to do. You know, I can't live in a house rent free. Nobody's going to pay it for me. I'm going to have to pay it for me sooner or later.
as a resident person that lived with my parents until I was 25, rent-free, I know that I wasn't to my detriment, but it also didn't help me with finances at all. But I appreciate them.
When you left?
Well, I lived in New York City making about 25 grand a year. So I live, you know what I mean? In the beginning stages, so that it wasn't affordable. I couldn't live anywhere else. Besides, luckily, my parents lived in New York. But I think this is a good idea because I would take the money for Kinsley, let's say, and use it to invest or give it back to her when she's 21 and say, what do you want to do with this? What is that? $36,000 or no, $3,600.
Yeah. That'd be a good nest, especially if it's sitting in accruing interest. Yeah. What do you think, Jeff?
Accruing interest.
Yeah. No.
Wow. Look at Al.
I would have to get some good accounts for Al. Yeah. He has some
diversified his funds.
I was just talking about regular Chase savings.
That was hilarious. I like this idea. I'm exactly with you. Take that money. It's $100 a month. I know that's a lot of money, but it shows them some responsibility. When she moves out, a rent, speaking of Manhattan, a closet there is $1,500.
Yeah, I finally did move into that closet at 26.
So I get it. And this is just showing responsibility of some sort. Put it into an accruing interest. And, who knows what happens? Maybe you might get like...
I just throw around like 1 or 2 terms at them. I'd be like, yeah, you guys wrestle with that.
So you would charge your kids if they're like, I want to move to Denver. What's going on?
I would not charge them, but I like what the mom was saying. You know, I was kind of on the fence with this until I read that the mom said I want to set her up for success. Like, unfortunately, my parents did not. And I appreciate what you're doing. First of all, the signing of a contract, the first one you sign probably should be kind of a test run. You know, you should, because what I would do, and if any parent wants to do this, I would take that contract and throw a couple shady things in there and see if they still sign it, and then go back and be like, hey, I'd just be like,
got to mop the floors.
Did you know that you signed that next month this is going to be $500? Did you read it? Like, make sure that they, like, these little things where, you know, you're their parent, you love them, but the next contract they sign is going to be from somebody that probably doesn't, somebody that's probably going to be coming and probably a predatory manner in some way, everybody's trying to get over. So teaching them to read contracts and understand they have to come through on those. I'm here for this parent. I like it.
And I think finances, I mean, really, we don't talk about them enough. We don't teach them about it in school.
Interest.
I never talked about it with my parents. You just kind of like, I always just was living off check to check and just like whatever until I really took it seriously and decided, okay, first I'm going to start taking my finances seriously. Then I'm going to hopefully get a financial advisor. And these things that you learn as you get older by making big mistakes. Maybe you can avoid some of those mistakes.
Absolutely. And you know, a big one we got to go about credit card debt. How they put that interest on you, and
they stand at your college trying to sell you credit cards.
I think your student loan is the only thing you cannot claim bankruptcy on.
Yes, I did know that. Trust me.
That's something they don't teach you.
We'll talk about this more, I'm sure. We'll be right back, guys.
Promotional consideration is brought to you by...
We've heard about pigs flying, plus miniature horses, turkeys, anteaters, and other emotional support animals on airplanes. And you might think any creature can fly if it works as a support animal. But is that true? Our sources are the Department of Transportation, the Department of Justice, and the Americans with Disabilities Act, the American Kennel Club's Sheila Goff, and the policies of several major airlines. The ADA defines service animals as dogs, quote, individually trained to do work or perform tasks for people with disabilities, physical or psychiatric, and legally allowed to be with their person in public places.
They have to have a specific diagnosed disability, and then that dog is mitigating the disability in some way.
The American Kennel Club says emotional support animals are prescribed by mental health professionals, but they are pets and not service dogs.
So it's really tricky, because we recognize that emotional support is really valuable, but it's something that all dogs can provide, and it's generalized versus a very specific task.
At the beginning of 2021, the DOT issued its, quote, final rule on service animals on airplanes, which also, quote, no longer considers an emotional support animal to be a service animal. It was a change in policy AKC supported.
When people started really misrepresenting pets as emotional support animals, there was a lot of poor behavior. It's sad, but that's sort of what we've seen in the last several years.
So now airlines do not need to accommodate emotional support animals in the same way they do service dogs. Most major carriers say they won't. Emotional support animals travel as pets with the same requirements and same fees. Service dogs fly free.
That dog can go anywhere you go.
So no, not any animal is allowed to board a plane just because it's called a support animal. Also, service animals are not required to be identified with a vest or special collar. You might not know one when you see one, but airlines are allowed to ask for certain paperwork before service dogs can fly. With your Verify, I'm Abby Larico.
During the pandemic, the federal government sent Americans 3 stimulus checks, and the Biden administration remains adamant a 4th stimulus is not on the way. Now, some social media users say California is sending its residents stimulus checks, this time for inflation, with some wondering, what about those who live in the other 49 states? So let's verify. Are some states sending out inflation relief checks? Our sources are California Governor Gavin Newsom, the California Budget Act of 2022, and the Departments of Revenue, Taxation, and Finance in these 11 states. In 2021, California collected more tax revenue than expected, leading to a historic $97 billion surplus. On June 26th, Newsom announced the state would refund a fifth of the surplus back to Californians in the form of an inflation relief package. Families could get more than $1,000 deposited into their accounts, depending on their income, and California isn't alone. Georgia announced in May that it would also issue a one-time tax refund while citing the high cost of inflation. Other states soon followed, and to date, 12 states have announced they're refunding money back to taxpayers, with many branding the refund as a way to help families with the cost of inflation. So, yes, some states are sending out inflation relief checks that are coming from tax surpluses.
Before we go, we have a video to show you that will warm your heart. A mom captured the moment her 10-year-old daughter, Riley, made her travel softball team. Take a look.
Hi, Kristen. I'm so sorry for the delete or whatever here. We would love to have Riley on the team. I made the team.
Yeah.
I want to have it back.
Trying to get us right at the end here. I'm like, wow. Yeah, that's awesome. And for something to mean that much to her at that age is really cool.
And those moments are so important because they're going to lose stuff. Everyone loses stuff in life. And so to win and see how they react, it kind of is that beginning moment of like understanding the highs and lows of life.
Absolutely. And just to, you know what I like is it's like, not that she was going to Disney World or something that could be bought. It's something she clearly worked for. She earned it, and like she recognized all that in that moment. That was really cool.
Jeff?
Makes me want to cry.
I know, man. Jeff were like trying not to
I was like,
I'm
just put my sons in that moment, because if I did that and I recorded it, you'd hear, like I'd ruin the video.
And look, as parents, you just start crying, you know, over everything. It's like,
and to have
you can't
that
even control
genuine
it.
Reaction. Oh,
yeah,
kids
everything
are the
is
best.
like,
people are the worst. Kids
I cry over TV shows now, whatever it is.
Wait till the commercials start to get you, buddy. It's coming.
DBL is new every day. We'll see you guys on Monday, same time, same place.
Here. We would love to have Riley on the team. I made the team.
Yeah.